That night, Wang Lin dared not sleep alone. He couldn't even close his eyes. That eerie smile and the golden python kept flashing in his mind, causing him to scream in fear. Wang Lin's grandmother wiped his sweat and changed his sweaty clothes repeatedly, applying a hot towel to his forehead. In the following days, he felt weak all over, his face turning pale, and he couldn't even eat a meal. His family thought he was sick and took him to the hospital for an examination. But the doctor couldn't find any problems and only prescribed some stomach medicine. Eventually, he fell sick in bed, vomiting profusely. An elderly person from the village saw him in this state and muttered, "Could he have encountered something unclean?" Wang Lin's grandmother trembled when she heard these words. The next day, she invited a spiritualist. The old man had snow-white hair, but his eyes were as bright as a young person's. He was no ordinary person and was known as a living deity. Once an old lady passed away. But her body became stiff, and her eyes couldn't close, reminiscent of a scene from a horror TV show. The old lady's descendants were terrified and quickly summoned the old man. The old man arrived, glanced at the body, and asked, "Is there something valuable that the old lady hasn't found yet? Search the house." Later, they found a golden bracelet in an old box. The descendants placed the bracelet in front of the old lady's eyes, and several daughters-in-law cried, assuring her that they wouldn't lose her dowry. The old lady immediately closed her eyes, causing those around her to gasp in astonishment. There was another family whose child had been running a high fever. Despite receiving intravenous fluids and injections, the fever wouldn't go down. And every night, the child would start howling, crying until his voice became hoarse. They called in the old man. The old man touched the child's head, examined his eyes, and then said, "There may be something unclean in your backyard." A brave young man took a shovel and a hammer and went to the backyard. After searching around, they found a pile of dead feral cats and a colorful snake nearby. The decomposed bodies of the cats were terrifying. The young men approached and used tools to kill the snake, then buried the dead cats. The next day, the child's fever subsided, and his consciousness gradually returned. There was another strange incident. In the village, a young man brought a girl from another town to get married. The wedding was held in the countryside, complete with a tent and a hired band, hosting a grand feast. However, during dinner, the tent suddenly collapsed, and a thick wooden beam inexplicably broke in the middle. Everyone quickly grabbed their bowls and ran out, but it didn't affect the atmosphere, and they continued laughing. The old man hurriedly found the young man's father and told him that this union couldn't take place as there might be a bloodbath. The young man's father was in high spirits. He had raised his son with great difficulty and had been looking forward to this day. How could he listen to such ominous words? He had a gloomy expression on his face and ignored the old man. As a result, before a year had passed, the young man met a tragic end in a brawl. He was not even 25 when he died. The fight broke out because the girl from out of town was involved in an illicit relationship with another young man from the village. Rumors had it that they spent several nights together. They fought, and one was killed on the spot, while the other received a life sentence. During the funeral, the old man also came. He patted the young man's coffin, sighed, and appeared deeply saddened.